I am Caroline Faraj. I am the editor-in-chief of CNN Arabia and in charge of the Arabic services at the CNN company. Today, it is our honor to debate with Chief of the Government of Morocco, Abdelilah Benkirane, and his CV is well known to all of you. However, for those who don't know him, I would like to give some points or special issues about him, or some comments about him. He assumed his current position in 2011. Prior to that, he was the Secretary General and is still the Secretary General of the Justice and Development Party, which is the Conservative Islamic Party. He assumed this position in the party as of 2008. He has assumed several positions in the political and party circles in Morocco. Some of the most significant issues related to him is that he is very, very attached to his mother. He loves his mother. Yes, I think she is fit to be a chief of government. Yes, I heard that she is 19 years old. Well, she could have been a chief of government much better than me. Mr. Benkirane is described by some of the observers as a conservative but an open-minded person who hears and adheres other points of views. Let me start off, sir, with a question. If you were to mention three issues that are sources of pride for you as of the assumption of this position of Chief of Government of Morocco, what would you say they are? In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, I would like to describe the process of how I assumed this position of Chief of Government, but I will restrict myself to your question. The government program or plans of action are very broad. And in Morocco, we have what we call the appointment by the king, and the prime minister is appointed by the party who has won the elections. It might be the secretary general or another person, and the king has chosen the secretary general. There is another means of appointment, which is appointment by the parliament, where the parliament would vote on the person, and this takes place usually 2 months after the appointment of the king. I held various discussions with various guests who came to understand who came to discover who this chief of government were, and all their discussions were focused on the main issues that I would be taking up. They were always asking me that question. So I had to come up with three main points to answer their queries. The first idea is the following: an attempt to rectify and adjust the macroeconomic situation in Morocco. I found out that the budget is getting stifled because of a various host of factors, mainly related to the price of oil that change regardless of the situation of countries and individuals. Yes, of course, this happens. This can be also applied to your government. No, let me go back to the price of the oil. It was 61. It is $61 a barrel today. But when I was appointed, it was 110, and we budgeted on the basis of 105. And any increase would cost us 600 dirhams or $60 million. Around the year when the price of oil went up by a single dollar. So our budget was stifled, and it was under a lot of stress, and it needed amendment and adjustment. Yes, that if you are going to grade yourself from 1 to 10, how would you grade yourself on that respect? I would say 8 to 10, and I say that modestly because we were able to lift subsidies to the fuel sector, and in the first year we used to subsidize various items by $57 million, and this year it's only 23. So as of 2012 to 2015, we were able to bring it down by $10 billion in over those years, and this is very important. Now, the second main issue. All right, the second main issue is the following. I found that contracting business was quite profitable, but they were heavily burdened because of the red tape, because of bribes, because of various judicial procedures. And I am convinced that contracting is the main core element of economy. If we don't have a vibrant contracting sector, our economy would not flourish. And we use French in Morocco, and we said we need to faciliter la vie à l'entreprise, which means we need to facilitate life to the enterprises and to the business. And over those 2 years, we were able to gain 26 positions. I think. Ranking, the international ranking, we were able to assume a better position in terms of contracting and enterprise business. I said, we have a state, but we can also think of ourselves as a merchant person, as a trader, a tradesman, and that's how I thought that we should deal with the contractors. We should give the contractors the right, and we cannot put certain conditions on them to have a certain amount of liquidity or this or that. It is up to the contractors to decide what they would do with their own liquidity. The state should deal with the contractors on that basis. The fuel tradesmen owed us a lot. We borrowed a lot of money from them, and now we have settled all our debts to them after the assumption of my position. I have to recognize or confess to you that before assuming my position, I had no idea whatsoever about the details, and I was given the details slowly, and I learned that persons, fuel tradesmen, would give taxes to the state, and they would only regain it once they sell their fuel. And I thought that that was not acceptable. We needed to give back the rights to the tradesmen. And you know how government work goes. We start raising our voices and demanding this or that, but it only takes at least a year or more to achieve. Yes, you've been there since 2012, so you have been able to achieve things. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have started to reap the fruits of my efforts. The businessmen or tradesmen did not expect to regain those taxes that they had paid, which are around $200 million. And we have agreed with them that we will settle this tax or get rid of it gradually. This means that Moroccan contractors actors feel that the government is changing, not in terms of funds available, but in the means that or measures. Sir, how would you grade yourself for this second achievement from 1 to 10? I think 6 out of 10. All right. And I'm a little bit lenient. Well, you're quite modest, sir. You're not giving yourself very high grades. Maybe it should have been 5, not 6, says Mr. Benkirane. The third point, or the third main point, frankly speaking, let me say the following. We know that following independence and because of the occupation in the previous parts, we know that the strong people and the strong men and the people who surround them, meaning tradesmen as well as opposition or so-called opposition, all of them brought their ranks together and got their profit and benefited from the situation. But that left out a huge segment of the society on its own, and that segment, I mean, represents the poor people who had to deal and to manage their own affairs on the basis of selling out their own minimum and minimal possessions. And we thought that it is not fair and it is not logical to leave them to their own devices, and that we need to take care of them in order to re-establish balance to the society. So we talked about balancing economy, balancing the contractors and businessmen segment, and then balancing the entire society. So we raised grants to the students by around 35%. This is something that was unheard of for 40 years or more. We also took care of the retired people through the pension fund. By virtue of law, the retirement or the pension was $7 a month, and that meant that it was impossible for them, the retired people, to live on that allocation. So I had to deal with the Minister of Finance and to discuss this issue with him, and the minimum retirement pension was raised to $100 a month. This is a good number in Morocco. Well, yes, sir, from 7 to 100, it's a good raise. Yes, ma'am? We found that there were some medications were overpriced, and we lowered those prices. And we, for example, if we buy those medication as a government, the medications would be given to us at a much lower price. So we had to reduce the prices because those prices were given to the citizens at a much higher barem or level than given to us. So we needed to lower it for everyone, not only for the government. Then we turned to the widows or to the workers segment, and there are the daily workers, and we had to cater for their life support once they stop their work if as a result of an injury. So again, I say widows of those daily workers suffered a lot, and we needed to focus on them and take care of them because these widows would not be able to work after the injury of their workers, of their husbands. And we decided that we needed to allocate certain funds to them, and that might come up to $100 a month. And we took up similar measures to help the society at large. And we tried our best to help the workers, the students, etc. And we also ensured medical insurance for all students. All our students have free medical insurance till the age of 26. 26, yes. They have this free medical coverage. So we did this gradually. Let me add some liberalization of the economy. When I assumed power or my position, I found out that only physicians can invest in the health sector. And if you are not a physician or a doctor, you would not be able to invest or open up clinics or do this or that. I thought that I needed to change this. This issue has been on the table for 10 years and no one was bold enough to deal with it. I said the Minister of Health, who used to be a communist, and he is still part of our party, but the communist of his party, the Communist Party, which has changed its name. So he is bold, and he was able to confront that issue and to open the Pandora's box and discuss that very thorny issue, and I supported him. So this is how I worked. I have always believed that the government in Morocco and in many other countries undertake tasks that should not be their responsibility. They started to do that because the community or the society was weak to start off. But later on, things should have changed. Government should assume tasks that citizens cannot assume. It is much better for citizens to assume their tasks, and the government would be there to coordinate, to follow up, and not to achieve. The government should not become the professor, the teacher, the physician, the farmer, and the tradesman, because the government does badly at all of these tasks, fares very, very badly. And this means that the society is deprived of excellent services. If you are a headmistress of a school and you report directly to the owners of the school, you will excel at your work. But if you are a headmistress at a public school, you will not do anything. You will just await instructions if these instructions come to you. All right, sir, let's go into the domestic affairs, if you allow me to focus on this issue. Before we talk about regional affairs, the Directorate for Planning and the Statistics Department in Morocco expects a growth of 4.8% in the economy compared to 2.6% of last year. Now we are in the midst of 2015. Are you satisfied with the results that the economy has achieved in Morocco, and do you expect that it will come up to the expected figure when it comes to development and growth? I think, yes, this is highly possible. We might even go beyond it, and we can even achieve 5%. But let me tell you the following. When I assumed my position, I found that the budget deficit was around 7.1%, according to our own calculations. 7.7 according to the IMF figures, and we did not know what to do. We wanted to reduce the investment budget on the basis of the measures that I have mentioned to you. This year it will be 4.3%, the budget deficit. We reduced it to 5.2, then 4.9, and this year we will reduce it to 4.3. And we hope that within 2 years it will be 3.5, which is the minimum accepted. But I have to acknowledge that this is not my own making. I contributed to this. It is God's will that has served our objectives, and I mean by that rainfall, because we know that it is very important for us to see rain in Morocco. It is good for our economy and for our psychology. And over the last few years, we saw a lot of rainfall. The first French governor said that if you want to rule Morocco, you need to make sure that there is rainfall. And thanks God, we did have rainfall. Another God's gift was the drop in the price of oil. Of course, the Gulf people are not happy with it, but we were very happy with the fact that the prices of oil went out from 105. From 110 to 105, and then it is 50 and 60. That was God's gift to us. That helped us. Investment has gone up. Savings also have gone up. We had 3 months of savings, and now it is 5 months or more per year for our government. My following question is related to unemployment. You have achieved 9.9% figure as the minimum unemployment figure in Morocco. Are you optimistic? Do you think that you will maintain this figure, taking into consideration that some unemployed people have started to shift towards terrorism and joining ISIS? Firstly, I do hope that that figure is 9.9. Well, sir, this is what is the figure that I have read, that is published. Ma'am, if this figure is correct, I'm more than happy. I think that unemployment is higher than 9.9%. However, this is not the source of my concern. What really makes me worried is that till now we were not able to find the appropriate method or methodology that would enable us to come out of unemployment logic. It is not a matter of figure, a certain figure. Unemployment is in the frame of mind. A person who wants to work and does not find appropriate work to cover his or her basic needs is something that we need to work on. We have been trying to find that idea, that methodology. I think that the means to solve unemployment are there. We have tried, or the previous governments have tried. But those means did not succeed as expected. We tried to encourage people to go towards investment in private entrepreneurships or projects. That did not succeed. Now, your second part of the question, to link the unemployment to terrorism, I don't think so. Those who went or were attracted by external terrorist groups are not necessarily unemployed people. They do work, but they conduct minimum standard of works, and I think that the government should take care of them. In Morocco, there was a conflict over power at a certain point of time, a conflict over power, absolute power in general. And then there was a conflict over capabilities,
حافظ على السلطة.
authorities, and the government wanted to keep all those authorities, which meant that the government has even included the opponents who threatened its authority. Our wages in Morocco are and salaries are amongst the highest salaries in the Arab world. If the Egyptians know that a Moroccan physician starts off with $1,000 a month, they would be extremely amazed, because I heard that in 2011 the Egyptians wanted the physicians to have a minimum of 1,000 pounds, Egyptian pounds in Egypt, while they start off with $1,000 in Morocco. Some of our professors in the universities have $6,000 a month, which is close to what a minister gets. So what I'm trying to say is that our elite, our educated people have good salaries, and a teacher in a higher school get 1,500 a month. Sir, if the government pampers its citizens to that extent, what is the problem? Well, no, we don't pamper all categories, only the elites. Sir, why does Morocco export a lot of numbers of those terrorists? Well, you know what, ma'am? We had an impressive number. Well, first, let's say that we are around 30 million people in Morocco, and those who went to various terrorist organizations do not go beyond 1,000. Of course, 1,000 is a big number, but and of course it is mainly linked to unemployment and to the marginalization. This marginalized category was not even catered for in an appropriate manner from a religious point of view even. That's why they turned extreme. And they found that extremism expressed their desires. And they were, this is quite unacceptable, of course.
Often he is even perverted. He sees that the society is not caring for him. He finds a group that calls and invites him to become religious and to wear a certain dress code that is different from our dress code. He wears in a humble manner, and he feels that now he has significance and he can learn certain holy verses and even give a religious opinion, and he has his own status in the society. This is a big transformation, and these are the groups who have been neglected, frankly speaking, in Morocco. And in the future, there's a need to rethink this thing, because when you are preoccupied with those who may face you in your attempts to governance, you pay attention there and you overlook others. But if you overlook others, there are other groups who will not ignore those groups and will attract them to their own projects. Is this reason, is it underlie what was said that there were certain constraints over certain freedoms in Morocco, and that some journalists have been arrested in Morocco? What is the reason behind this constraints imposed over freedoms? This makes me laugh. Please share with us your laugh. Usually people laugh with me, but this time I laugh alone. Those who say that there are constraints imposed over freedoms in Morocco, the least to say is they are ill-informed or unrealistic, if not malicious. Previously, I faced things that during years that we described as the years of
الوقت في المغرب
the years of oppression, and maybe that was overrated or an exaggeration. We don't even know what is written in the newspaper until we read it, and on TV they say whatever they want. Nobody dictates what they should say. True that people honor Islam and His Majesty the King. Sometimes they even attack Islam, and even they mention His Majesty the King. What we do is try to follow up these things from a legal perspective. Other than that, there are no constraints imposed on journalists. True that some journalists face old problems that are being addressed, and not in a 100% correct manner. Often, some organizations would catch such an incident, be it a legal organization or a freedoms organization. They would exaggerate the problem. We tell them, okay, you take this against us. Why don't you do this to other countries that are close to us? They say those countries don't open the door at all, but you open the door for us, and you want to be ranked with other European countries in terms of freedoms. Therefore, you are the appropriate party for us to monitor. Therefore, this is a kind of penalty imposed on us. I invite you and any of the participants to invite Morocco and to see on your own and to see the level of freedoms that prevail. They are almost with no limits. I have a last question on the local level. It is known that there is a division of responsibilities between the kingdom, the institution of the king and the government. This kind of sharing of responsibilities, does it have cause any obstacles? Allow me once again. This is an ongoing discussion in Morocco. Are the responsibilities in Morocco divided between the king and the chief of government or not? I tell you, they are not divided. When I read the constitution, I find that the king is the head of state, and the king is the Amir al-Mu'minin, or the prince of the believers. This is a title that has been inherited for centuries. For those who do not know, we are an almost religious state. This is our structure. When the Spaniards came to the Sultan and told him, we'll take part in the south. Where are your borders? He says, wherever you find a person who says that there is no God but Allah, this is our borders. This is our people. This is how we are built since 12 centuries. We are not only tens of years old. The king is the head of state, he is the Amir of the believers, and he is the head of the cabinet. Where is this division? True that the chief of government is the chief of the administration, but he is under the responsibility of the king. This is something the world doesn't want to understand. This existed in France. They call it the coexistence or cohabitation within the authority. I tell you, if we do this in Morocco, then we will ruin the country. I would like to explain. You are Lebanese, you are Jordanian, you have identified, but we have people from with the Faraj surname in Morocco, and they are an Andalusian family. You have touched on a very sensitive issue. This is being addressed by the Moroccan media. Yes, true. At some point, I told you there is a conflict over power and then conflict over authorities or mandates. I either go for the conflict over authorities or move in the direction of cooperation. I decided not to go into a conflict, and I understood that conflict is not in the interest of Morocco. Possibly, in the media it is portrayed that I'm always causing problems with the king, but I wanted to put an end to this media image, and I said that I am going to cooperate with the king. God asks us to cooperate. He did not ask us to struggle or to cause conflicts. He said you need to cooperate, and this is the position of the party. Yes, it is my position as well as the party's position. And also there are certain currents within the party. However, I, as a Secretary General, this is my conviction. If they don't want this in the party, I would quit the party and quit my position as well. What use is it for you to be a chief of government? I said I will work with the king and cooperate with him, and I can do anything in favor of our society, and we moved in this direction. Morocco enjoys security and stability since 3.5 years. Not one demonstration has come to the streets that is worth noting. There were scattered demonstrations. Sometimes they are big, sometimes they are small for certain organizations. However, they have taken note that this is futile and the society is content, and unlike what people thought, such a harmony in the logic satisfies the Moroccans, unlike what others think. Is this what you described? Was it the reason for the fact that you did not seek to have a parliamentarian monarchy in Morocco? According to our education, the parliamentarian monarchy means that the king is is a king, but he does not rule. But for us, this is useless. We don't need such a king. Is this your position and the party's position and the Moroccan position? We are a Muslim people. A king that has no powers or authorities and can interfere and to put things back on track, in my opinion, Muslims do not need such a king. He will not be useful for Muslims. This may be useful in Europe, but not for us. We want to have a king who fairly rules and an executive branch that helps him and a judicial authority that helps him this logic. And decisions are taken in cooperation and coordination between the monarchical organization and the government. Mostly, we have certain authorities and we do not go back to the king within our mandate. And he has certain authorities that he doesn't have to refer to us. But there are authorities and in which he has to inform us according to the constitution, and according to the customs. Ms. Caroline, you are a sister anyway. Sure I am, she says. Listen to me. Is it possible to write all the details in a marriage contract? Marriage is built on complementarity, and each party would exert all possible effort. Maybe the example is not very accurate, but in governance you need good faith. You do it in good faith and you exert all possible effort because you want to serve our country. And in Moroccan we say that we need to be flexible. He says, I want to teach you the local Moroccan dialect. And it is not useful for us not to be flexible. We have very respectful ministers. We had, during the late 50s, we had a chief of government who was appointed for only 6 months, and he has always been respected. We need to be patient. Of course, my relation with the king is not always very good, but we are patient. Sometimes we are patient because we want something positive and a positive impact for our society, rather than become heroes in history and waste such an opportunities for our societies that would be in their service. So since 2011 until now, you are still in your position. Is this an indicator that there is a relative consensus and agreement and harmony between you and the king? You are more harmonious than this in this agreement. Had it not been for this harmony and agreement, I wouldn't have worked. Had it not been for such harmony, I wouldn't have stayed in position. I would have quit. Because what use is it? I have 2 quick questions, and I would like quick answers to open the floor for questions. At the regional level, I tried to ask some people from the Maghreb about the questions that may be addressed to you. One is about the cool relations between Morocco and Algeria, and the other is about the internal position, particularly in Morocco. Do you agree that this cool relation should stop? Shouldn't the relations improve? On my side, this is coming very late. But I can say that such cool relations is part of the picture. If you see a Moroccan and Algerian who meet each other and who would shake hands, you would be astonished. The first time I met President Abdelilah was at the funeral of Benbella, and he greeted me very warmly, and I greeted him warmly. It was as if we are from the same family. We are one people. We are not even close people. We are one people, the people of Morocco and Algeria. Then what is obstructing the improvement in relations? Mr. Benkirane, unfortunately, there is a logic in politics that does not follow emotions or convergence and proximity. When Algeria recently won a match in the World Cup, in Morocco people went on the streets. But it happened in Jordan and the Gulf, yes. But there are no problems between Algeria and Jordan. But there are problems between us and Algeria. They were not supposed to cheer on the streets, but they did. Shall we expect a meeting to happen soon? Our meetings never stop with Algerians, and the relations are not severed. The borders are closed, but the relations are not severed. There is cooperation in several levels. However, unfortunately, we have the problem of the desert, and the Moroccan demand is to open the borders, and we hope that this happens in the end. You can choose your friends, but you cannot choose your brothers. Your brothers are your brothers, whether you like it or not. Algerians are our brothers, and we are their brothers. They are our neighbors, and we are their neighbors. However, history will dictate to us to overcome this period and to surpass it and to restore normal relations. This is my last question. Morocco is participating in the Saudi operation. Why did Morocco decide to join the ranks of the Resolute Storm? We have very close relations with the Gulf countries, and do you imagine that when they need us, they wouldn't find us? Is this possible? Moreover, 32 years ago, the late Hassan II said on the Moroccan TV, in response to the late Imam Khomeini, he said the following: if the Haram is in danger, we will declare the jihad. The Moroccans do not feel that they are Moroccans and they are far from Saudi Arabia. Moroccans feel that Saudi Arabia is part of them and they are part of it, and they are part of all Arab and Islamic countries. In 1973, we also supported Egypt, and then we supported Jordan. Our martyrs are still buried in Syria and in Egypt. Isn't this the case, Mr. Amr Moussa? This is our nature. We, the Moroccans, do not speak well or write well. Some people in the Levant write a lecture and they build on it a whole book of 1,000 pages. This is not what we do. But we respond, since Salah Eddine El Ayyubi, we respond to requests. There is a call by the king or the president of this country by saying that this country, that this war should be led by the Arab Islamic forces. Are you willing to join the forces that the king Abdullah II is calling for? This is part of our Holy Quran. If there is war among Muslims, then you should try to reconcile them. If we did this in Afghanistan, then the Americans wouldn't have interfered. But we let the Afghans to kill each other. If we did this with Saddam Hussein, then the Americans wouldn't have interfered. And they confused the whole area, and now we don't know what to do to exit the situation. Arabs and Muslims, when the right is obvious, they should take the position of the right and to face the unjust party, irrespective of the result. Otherwise, the whole region will be on fire and you don't know what to face. Fine, I will open the floor now for questions, and I kindly request that the questions are brief and to introduce yourselves first.
And thank you.
If you see my English, he says.
for this very, very eloquent overview of the situation in Morocco. I'm an economist and you're quite impressive. My question is regarding matters that are not within my area of expertise, so forgive the simplicity of the question. My name is Saad Eddine. I'm the chief economist of Arabia Monitor. You mentioned, sir, that the reason why some of the young Moroccans are joining efforts in the East that you find unfortunate doesn't have to do with unemployment, that it has to do with other factors, perhaps neglect in policy. It would be nice if you could kindly shed further light on this issue, which is on everyone's mind. And if you could kindly point the way forward in terms of how the region should coordinate in order to come out of the fairly dark period we are entering. You mentioned just now that it might be through better cooperation on things that are morally and objectively wrong.
Thank you very much. تفضل.
نجمع عدة أسئلة ولا؟
Shall we collect several questions first?
Hi, I'm Yusuf, Global Shapers from Morocco. Thank you, Mr. Benkirane, for your inputs. I prefer in English, so everybody can understand. My question is, I mean, first of all, congratulations for the last 3 years. It has been really positive as part of your reforms, your hard work with the government, and then with the king as well of Morocco. My question is that all the reforms, unfortunately, were focused on two categories of the society, either the very, very poor or the very, very rich. What is your strategy as a government of the Kingdom of Morocco to reform or to propose reforms for the, I would say, the middle class of Morocco, which did not benefit sort of or so far from your government's efforts? Thank you very much.
In this seminar, you mentioned more than once the need to develop partnership between the public and the private sectors. What are your policies in this regard?
Morocco's economy is doing well compared to other parts of the region, but our capital markets, capital controls in Morocco can make the financial markets unattractive to foreign investors. So I wanted to know if there are any plans to ease those restrictions on the capital markets.
شكرا. في أي سؤال تاني؟ أعتقد الآن المجال مفتوح لحضرتك للإجابة.
I think now is the time for you to answer. When I said that unemployment was not the reason, I did not mean that unemployment did not play a role. But I explained that our country and countries that are similar to us, it's not about the fact that they do not find jobs, but certain groups of the society are neglected. For example, in Morocco we have villas in which high-class people live, and we have buildings that are excellent deluxe buildings, and there are moderate and therefore moderate buildings, and we have people who live in shacks or in random areas. They were neglected, and they did whatever they pleased in return for things that they give for small people with authority. Education is fine in the cities. However, in the desert areas, we have 6 areas that don't have higher levels of education. We have, for example, schools for girls that are 5 kilometers away. They face difficulties commuting to schools, and that's when they drop from schools. In these modern policies, if you cannot to express yourself through strikes, through other forms of expression, nobody listens to you. This is the group that found itself in a world
in which they were left on their own. You can see a young man who is good looking and strong, and he lives in shacks. I found a family that is living in the shanty towns with the 16-meter square houses, no sanitation, in the city in which I was responsible. What happens? This young man goes to the street and he finds people who are well dressed, who are of his same age, so he opts for terrorism. This requires attention. When the state heeds on something, it will be successful. If you come to Morocco, you'll find that the highways that are close to the streets you can find in Europe. If you go to the train, you can find the trains that are close to the trains that are used in Europe. This means that when we give attention to things, then we are successful. But we did not give enough attention to these groups, and the time has come for us to give them our attention. The region and how it can exit the current crisis. I believe that it's difficult for me to answer this question alone. I would only wish to contribute with a simple idea. How did the region reach this situation? If we can identify the reason, then we can find a solution. The reason for this situation is the fact that the region ignored its own people. We are living in the 21st century, but often with a mentality that is pre-Islamic, without any exaggeration. We in Morocco, and I said this yesterday, we had a problem about the family law. There was a social disagreement, and to the extent that our society was threatened of division because of this law. The late King Hassan II said, no, we would like to establish a committee of ulama, or religious references. This committee worked, and after King Hassan II died, the King Mohammed came, and they said that as an Amir of the believers, I cannot make what is not correct in the terms of the Islamic Sharia correct. So our people feel that their dignity is maintained. Just like Bourqiba drank juice in Ramadan, and he said, those who want to work, let them work. You can do this. And those who want to fast, that they can fast. The important thing is that you come to work on time. That happened this during Ramadan. May his soul rest in peace. I'm not against Bourqiba, but this is what happened actually. You cannot shock the society. You need to respect their backgrounds. The West must understand we are Islamic people, no matter how they try. We can dress in modern dress code. We can wear even modern women clothes. With time, we don't know what will happen. All this may happen, but it is not possible to change us from within. We are an Islamic ummah. We have 3 more minutes, she says.
We need to include everyone. We need to include the majority when we think of our decisions and our policies, and we have to be patient. I only have 3 more minutes left. I thought we had 1 more hour. Sir, it is so interesting what you are saying, but still we have to abide by the time allotted to us. All right, ma'am. As for the question related to the middle class, let me say the following. We will not forget, we shall not forget the middle class, but let us be clear. They fare okay. Be patient with us. Be patient with us until we rebuild a certain balance in our society. Yes, we are thinking of it, and we have a housing project for the middle class. We are thinking of how to alleviate things for education. All right, sir. So you are, the middle class is on the program, on the government's program. Yes. All right, the third question, the private-public partnership. In the past, the governments were not convinced of this. And this is something that we are thinking of in our current government, and we will start working on it, on this PPP. As for the capital markets, that is a very important question. We are heading towards liberalization of the capital movements, inward, outward, inbound, outbound capital movements. In the past, we had certain administrative regulations and rules, but this year we have allowed for example, foreign possessions abroad, and we allowed to have 28 million dirhams instead of 6 million dirhams, which is quite a success, and only 2.1 billion dirhams went to the government budget, which means that this is a profit to the private sector, and liberalization of the market is our future in Morocco. Sir, towards the end, I think that you are smiling, so do you have a question on your mind? All right, Mr. Musa. Let me turn to the chief of the Moroccan government, Mr. Benkirane. I agree, my name is not very Arab. Where does it come from, sir, this family name? I really don't know. All right, I would like to thank all the audience. I would like to thank all those who did put in questions to Mr. Benkirane, and hopefully we'll meet again in Sharm el-Sheikh. Thank you for your time, sir. I am Caroline Faraj. I am the editor-in-chief of CNN Arabia and in charge of the Arabic services at the CNN company. Today it is our honor to debate with Chief of the Government of Morocco, Abdelilah Benkirane, and his CV is well known to all of you. However, for those who don't know him, I would like to give some points or special issues about him, or some comments about him. He assumed his current position in 2011. Prior to that, he was the Secretary General and is still the Secretary General of the Justice and Development Party, which is the conservative Islamic party. He assumed this position in the party as of 2008. He has assumed several positions in the political and party circles in Morocco. Some of the most significant issues related to him is that he is very, very attached to his mother. He loves his mother. Yes, I think she is fit to be a chief of government. Yes, I heard that she is 19 years old. Well, she could have been a chief of government much better than me. Mr. Benkirane is described by some of the observers as a conservative but an open-minded person who hears and adheres other points of views. Let me say because of various judicial procedures, and I am convinced that contracting is the main core element of economy. If we don't have a vibrant contracting sector, our economy would not flourish. And we use French in Morocco, and we said we need to faciliter la vie à l'entreprise, which means we need to facilitate life to the enterprises and to the business. And over those 2 years, we were able to gain 26 positions. Ranking, the international ranking, we were able to assume a better position in terms of contracting and enterprise business. I've said, you know, we have a state, but we can also think of ourselves as a merchant person, as a trader, a tradesman, and that's how I thought that we should deal with the contractors. We should give the contractors the right, and we cannot put certain conditions on them to have a certain amount of liquidity or this or that. It is up to the contractors to decide what they would do with their own liquidity. The state should deal with the contractors on that basis. The fuel tradesmen owed us a lot. We borrowed a lot of money from them, and now we have settled all our debts to them after the assumption of my position. I have to recognize or confess to you that before assuming my position, I had no idea whatsoever about the details, and I was given the details slowly, and I learned that persons, fuel tradesmen, would give taxes to the state, and they would only regain it once they sell their fuel. And I thought that that was not acceptable. We needed to give back the rights to the tradesmen. And you know how government work goes. We start raising our voices and demanding this or that, but it only takes at least a year or more to achieve. Yes, you've been there since 2012, so you have been able to achieve things. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have started to reap the fruits of my efforts. The businessmen or tradesmen did not expect to regain those taxes that they had paid, which are around $200 million. And we have agreed with them that we will settle this tax or get rid of it gradually. This means that Moroccan contractors feel that the government is changing, not in terms of funds available, but in the means that or measures. Sir, how would you grade yourself for this second achievement from 1 to 10? I think 6 out of 10. All right. And I'm a little bit lenient. Well, you're quite modest, sir. You're not giving yourself very high grades. Maybe it should have been 5, not 6, says Mr. Benkirane. The third point, or the third main point, frankly speaking, let me say the following. We know that following independence and because of the occupation in the previous parts, we know that the strong people and the strong men and the people who surround them, meaning tradesmen as well as opposition or so-called opposition, all of them brought the start off, sir, with a question. If you were to mention 3 issues that are sources of pride for you as of the assumption of this position of Chief of Government of Morocco, what would you say they are? In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, I would like to describe the process of how I assumed this position of Chief of Government, but I will restrict myself to your question. The government program or plans of action are very broad. And in Morocco, we have what we call the appointment by the king, and the prime minister is appointed by the party who has won the elections. It might be the secretary general or another person, and the king has chosen the secretary general. There is another means of appointment, which is appointment by the parliament, where the parliament would vote on the person, and this takes place usually 2 months after the appointment of the king. I held various discussions with various guests who came to understand who came to discover who this chief of government were, and all their discussions were focused on the main issues that I would be taking up. They were always asking me that question. So I had to come up with three main points to answer their queries. The first idea is the following: an attempt to rectify and adjust the macroeconomic situation in Morocco. I found out that the budget is getting stifled because of a various host of factors, mainly related to the price of oil that change regardless of the situation of countries and individuals. Yes, of course, this happens. This can be also applied to your government. No, let me go back to the price of the oil. It was 61. It is $61 a barrel today. But when I was appointed, it was 110, and we budgeted on the basis of 105. And any increase would cost us 600 dirhams or $60 million. Around the year when the price of oil went up by a single dollar. So our budget was stifled, and it was under a lot of stress, and it needed amendment and adjustment. That if you are going to grade yourself from 1 to 10, how would you grade yourself on that respect? I would say 8 to 10, and I say that modestly because we were able to lift subsidies to the fuel sector, and in the first year we used to subsidize various items by $57 million, and this year it's only 23. So as of 2012 to 2015, we were able to bring it down by $10 billion in over those years, and this is very important. Now, the second main issue. All right, the second main issue is the following. I found that contracting business was quite profitable, but they were heavily burdened because of the red tape, because of